How can an entrepreneur can build financial resilience for their business?
That is important. It goes back to a couple of things. While you may have a vision in your mind, you need to get that vision down on paper or in a spreadsheet. You need to have a very good understanding of your income statement.
Welcome back to another episode, and today we will be going to explore how new entrepreneurs can build financial, sustainable, and impact driven business. Because Randell Cain is just not an entrepreneur, he is an advisor, consultant, and he has been helping a lot of people to be a millionaire. So I think he can help us today to become a millionaire. Thank you so much, Randall, for your precious time.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Randall, I have a lot of things to discuss with you because you are a seasonal entrepreneur. But before diving into the details, I want to know that entrepreneurship is all about working for others, for having many bosses. And mostly people think that entrepreneurship is just like freedom. What do you think about it?
I have heard others say that they want to be an entrepreneur because they want to be their own boss and they don't want anyone else telling them what to do. And one of the things I've found, especially in being an entrepreneur myself, is that you actually don't lose bosses, so to speak, by starting your own business. You gain them. From the internal standpoint, you do become your own boss, but you do have to make sure that you're meeting the demands of the business. That can start initially when you're getting the business set up, registered, regulatory bodies, and things of that nature. But also, as you're just looking to try to find a way to gain, I would say, mind share in the marketplace for the product or service that you're developing. And then when you have the opportunity to actually work with clients and customers, they become your bosses because they are the ones who are going to dictate whether or not you're actually going to have revenue associated with your product or with your service. And so, from the standpoint of seeking to not have a boss, again, in entrepreneurship, I think that the responsibilities and the authority associated with running a business magnifies and intensifies what it means to be a boss.
Okay, like when we face something, when we are trying to change something, we face problems, right? And if I will have a secure job, I will never leave it. But on the other side, Randall, you were the one who shifted. Like, what was your mindset? You were working in a financial institutional company, a stable company, but you shifted and you became an entrepreneur. So, what was the driving force behind it?
It was quite interesting in terms of being a specialist in a business, as many of us are who work for institutions. We're given a set of responsibilities that are limited and in some ways become almost like being a part of a silo. Whereas when you become the founder, the chief executive officer for your own company, you have to adopt a mindset of being a generalist, meaning that you're not just responsible for your day-to-day functions, you're also responsible for the functioning of the entire business. And so it moves you to a higher level of engagement as well as interaction with all the different functions of the company. For example, I have my MBA from Harvard Business School, and there I learned about the various functions of business in great detail. And between my first and second year of business school, I worked with Putnam Investments in Boston, Massachusetts. And there, the former president of Putnam, Larry Lasser, had me in his office and asked me if I was interested not in managing money, but in managing the money management business. And he talked to me about that. And at that time, I had no interest in doing something like that. I wanted to manage money. I wanted to have that silo experience. But then in the launching of Caruso, it took me back to that conversation with him because now not only am I managing money, I am managing the money management business. It's a great deal more complexity and responsibility because even if we generate good portfolio performance, we have to make sure the other aspects of the business are taken care of as well. And while I have other partners in the firm who I work with, because I am a chief executive officer, I'm the majority shareholder, ultimately that responsibility falls at my feet.
I was going through some articles and some of your interviews, previous interviews. I've seen that you emphasize on legacy. You say this often that try to build legacy. What is the importance of legacy, and why should an entrepreneur should build legacy in the community or in the environment?
I think that again, what can happen is what I've seen in institutions and working with individuals. They'll say they have a business per se. But in reality, what they've done is they've gotten, if it just ends with them, in my opinion, a good job for a season. And how do you know? It's like, well, when they stop doing it, does the business in essence go away? In contrast, what I'm looking to build, and I think where you can maximize the value of other individuals and maximize your value, is when you build something that has the potential to outlive you. Because of one of the distinctions I like to draw is between the two L words, I'll say. And one is legacy that you're asking about, and the other is legend. The thing about legends is after they've done what they've done, basically it ends and it somewhat dies, and we memorialize what is done that's never to be done again. But when you're building a legacy, it can be something that maybe was started by a legend, but there's continuity associated with it. And to me, that is the richest aspect of even just being a human being, is not what you accomplish that dies with you, but what you're able to leave behind to inspire, motivate, and encourage others to potentially do likewise and even perhaps do it better than what you've been able to accomplish. I would say it is possible. And what it comes down to is vision and focus. For example, within my organization, Crucial Capital Management, the employees who work with me have day one equity. That means from the day they join the firm, they're owners. And so the emphasis and the thrust is not for how they can make me successful or how they can make me wealthy. We're building success and wealth together that will be shared together, not equally, but in an equitable fashion. And to the extent that you can have people who are working with you who really see a bigger vision of building something, to some degree, them being a little selfish, but I would say selfish in a team-oriented way, meaning the selfishness is they want to be successful, but they see their success intertwined with the success of others. And when you have that kind of ethos, that kind of vision and mindset starting at the top, it tends to be something that will be a key part of the cultural DNA of an organization. Whereas when you have the absence of that at the top, you can have people below you who want a team-oriented culture, but they realize at the end of the day, the person at the top is calling all the shots. And people will put up with that until they can find a better opportunity. Instead, what we're trying to create at Caruso, we want this to be their better opportunity so they're not having to look elsewhere.
You said this often, like long nights behind the success. So what did those early days looks like for you, because you were working hard, you were alone at that time. So how were your long nights at that particular journey?
Certainly. Well, I think I'll say at the beginning of it, when we put together our first business plan, we had a vision within the first year that we would raise a certain amount of in assets and a certain fee level that would offset our revenues. And we thought that we would frankly be profitable, cash flow, at least cash flow neutral, fairly quickly. And why? It's because we saw the promise within our business. The challenge that you have is you can be sometimes a bit myopic and tunnel vision in terms of what you see without recognizing that others have to be engaged and excited about it as well for that vision to come to pass in business. And so it's taken us longer to get to where we are, but we still very much see the promise within it. And also, it's been interesting to have others recognize the success we have achieved and say, you've done very well. But that's according to their metrics. According to our metrics, I'm pleased with where we are, but I'm so far from being satisfied with where we are. And so, in terms of the overnight success, we've been at this managing money. It will be about 3 years in a couple of months. We started the business registering back in 2021. And so there are some milestones that we still have not achieved as of yet that we're still working towards. And so when we achieve those things, when we get to those places, I'm quite sure that some will look at the level we've achieved, and because it may be faster than what others have been able to do, and they will applaud the success that we've been able to generate. The issue with it is that we're still, as I like to say, grinding. And grind for me is an acrostic. You can take it one or two ways. It breaks down into the words growing relationships into either new dollars or new disciples, those following what we're trying to do within Caruso. And that is something that is never ending. And so even when we achieve a level of success, there's more to do. And so, for us, we've been at it for a while. I can see that, we keep on this trajectory where we might be in 5 to 10 years. And then when somebody just looks at it for the first time, they'll say, wow, you guys are so successful. That's great. But you haven't been with us when we got the phantom phone calls, and it's like, was somebody calling to say they wanted to do business with? Is that next email going to be the one? Is that next text going to be the one? And then having the ability to work through all your no's to ultimately get to the yeses to help to make a sustainable business.
Absolutely true. Now, I want to know, like, there are many people like me, they are very impatient, they don't have patience, right? So, how we can develop a habit of being patience, right? How we can.
I'll call it three P's. Make sure that what it is you're doing, if you hang out your shingle to do this, it is your passion. Because passion will lead to the second P, which will be your persistence. Because if you don't believe in yourself and what it is you're seeking to accomplish, it'll be too easy to stop, to listen to the naysayers, and to turn and go into another direction. But then also the last P is the vision of the promise. And the promise is when you achieve that success, as they say, is the look worth the leap? Is the view worth the climb? Do you expect for the end to be much better than the beginning? And if you continue to believe in that and have confidence in it, and I'll say even from almost a religious standpoint, it is like a faith walk because you're not there yet, but you have to have the faith in yourself when others may not. And so that's where again I come back to those three P's: having the passion, having the persistence, and then always keeping in front of you the vision of the promise.
Randall, there are many questions, but this question stays in my mind. I want to know, like, why did you decided to share your equity, to give your all equity to company from day one? Like, why? What was the main reason behind it?
My partners did not force or thrust this upon me. It really was a matter of me operating under what I like to call a wounds to scars paradigm. And the way I like to describe it is that when someone is wounded, that means they're still hurt. That means that they're not yet healed. But when they have actually healed, sometimes there are scars to remind them of what they have gone through. And I've been in the investment business for almost 30 years now. I've worked in different structures with different organizations. And the ones that I have found that have been most successful have been those that have had a greater alignment between the success of the business and the people who are generating that success. Where I've seen less has been where success is generated, but the alignment between those who generate the success participation and success has been low. And those normally have been more hierarchical structures, the boss employee type of structure. And so in launching Caruso, I wanted to create a culture that was distinct and it was different. But it wasn't for the purpose of being distinct and being different. It was really for the purpose of allowing myself to experience the scar from some of the wounds that I've seen inflicted in the past to where people showed up to work as employees, meaning that, I'll work for you as long as it's good for me. But then if I can get a better deal somewhere else, I'm going to go. Versus it being a matter of we're partners, we're collaborators, we're colleagues. We don't talk about boss, manager, and employees and things so much of that nature. We speak to each other, frankly, as human beings seeking to be human. And so we're trying to create a culture that is distinctly Caruso because we believe that will engender, if you have the right people in the firm, the kind of loyalty for people to stay. So that as we talked about those three P's, that passion, persistence, and promise, everyone is buying into that and helping to bring that to fruition.
Randall, there are many entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, they face this problem. They don't have equity. They cannot focus on ownership. So, how they can improve their equity and ownership to make their business durable for long term? Like any hacks you want to share?
I think that a way to think about it, I won't say the way, but a way to think about it is when you look at those who you work with, in most cases, even if it's in a virtual environment where people are working remotely, people tend to spend a good deal of, if not in some cases, almost most of their waking hours working. If you can create an atmosphere to where what people are giving of their most valuable asset, their time, is worth it, not just worth it to you, but worth it to them, then you can engender and build loyalty to the organization. And it's not loyalty so much to the individual, but it's a loyalty to the organization and building institutional instability and a foundation to be built upon, which then helps us to move more so into the mindset of legacy, as we were talking about before. because you have created something of value. You're working with people who you're looking at transitioning that value to over time. And if they have the same type of cultural ethos, they should be looking to do likewise. And so built within the business is that, hopefully, that vision of longevity, of success, that we're stewards over what we have for a period of time. We will not always be in this position. When we're not, we don't want it to die because it's our legacy. And do we want our legacy to be, well, they did it for a while and then they couldn't carry it on, and so then it ended? Or do we want the legacy to be, we started something, we passed a baton of success to someone else, and they're carrying it forward, hopefully to a greater level of success?
Okay, so what should be the mindset of an entrepreneur when they are trying to raise funds? You can say seed money. So, what should be the mindset? How they should pitch to the people? They like, if I am trying to sell something or if I want to develop my business, I don't have capital, right? So, what should be my mindset when the procedure of pitching comes?
Well, having gone through that experience myself, the first thing is the product or service that you have developed. Do you believe that there is, frankly, a scalable market for it to be sold into? Another way of saying that is, why in the world should anybody care about what you're selling? And if you can't articulate the value proposition or vision of that for customers, you're likely not going to be able to articulate that very well to convince investors. For what we did in launching Caruso, it was based off of my, almost 2-decade career of performance in the top decile of my asset class. So I'm one of the best of the best at what I do. So investors looking at that as, is that something that can be monetized? Is that something that can be scaled? Is that something that we think we can get a, attractive return on our investment for doing so? The answer to that, I felt, was compelling, was yes. And I had to have the passion behind it to communicate that, and basically to get others to be able to see what I saw well enough to be able to do the same. And so in doing so, I would say for entrepreneurs looking to raise capital, cast a wide net. Perhaps there's a sphere of influence of people who are around you who may have the capital. Don't be afraid to go beyond that, because I was able in serendipitous fashion to connect with some people that I knew, who connected me in some cases to people who I didn't know. And that gave me an audience to be able to speak about what we were trying to accomplish with Caruso. And so, first of all, I say you have to believe in yourself. You are going to be your brand. You're going to be the representation of your product or your service, and you need to be able to have that enthusiasm surrounding it, no matter what. Because again, in my effort to raise capital, I probably talked to maybe 15 to 20 people before I got to my first yes. I did not lose confidence or faith in what we were doing at all. I said, it's just not right for them, and I'm getting closer to the people who are going to say yes. If you, as an entrepreneur, or prior to becoming an entrepreneur, have a problem with rejection or a problem with hearing the word no, entrepreneurship is not the place for you, because you're likely going to hear a lot more no's before you get to the first yes. But once you get that first yes, it's likely going to be fewer no's till you get to the second yes, and then fewer no's to the third, so on and so forth. If it's a business that really should be a business with a product or service that should have some standing in the marketplace, that you can then get investors to buy into as well.
How can an entrepreneur can build financial resilience for their business? Because this is the most important thing in developing process.
I would say that one of the things that is important, it goes back to a couple of things. While you may have a vision in your mind, you need to get that vision down on paper or in a spreadsheet. You need to have a very good understanding of your income statement, of your cash flow statement, and of your balance sheet. These three key financial statements. Why? Because they will tell the true story of the success or lack thereof for your business. But when it gets down to like budgeting, you need to have an idea of what you're bringing in, what it may take for it to go out, and how you're going to be able to cover the gap if one actually exists, and be able to go back sure that that's a dynamic experience, because depending on the success or lack thereof of your business, things can take a little longer, or if success comes faster than what you're anticipating, how you utilize the funds that you're bringing into the company. And so this is where, if you don't have that type of financial acumen, it will be important for you to find someone who you can trust to help you to work through those things. Because a lot of time with entrepreneurs, they have vision, but they may not have all the requisite business skills to keep the business afloat. and have someone help them to understand when there may be the need for additional capital. Because what I've also found is that things will take longer and be more expensive than what you may think initially. And so either you need to have a backstop of personal capital that you can invest into your business, or you need to make sure you've got a group of investors around you who are willing to participate in what may be called capital calls or additional contributions to keep the business afloat until you can reach the level of success that you're seeking.
So we have talked about many principles and you have shared many experiences of yours in this podcast. So I want to know what is the one main core principle that has stayed with you throughout your career and now you want to share with our audience.
I would say it's very simple. Your name is your most valuable asset because within that is revelation of your character and your integrity. Basically, when someone says your name, are you someone that people can trust? And that means a great deal. When you're starting off in your career, and this is prior to, I would say, getting down the entrepreneurial track. If you're just starting out in business in general, are you someone who people can trust? If I give you an assignment and a task, can I trust you to complete it to the best of your ability? And if you find that you're having stumbling blocks or issues, are you willing to speak to that and not try to hide it so that we can get things done the right way? And what will happen is as you start building your reputation, people will have, again, depending on the type of reputation that you're building, people will either have confidence in you or not. As I've heard some people say, it takes a lifetime to build a good name, but you can lose it very quickly. And so for me in launching Caruso, I haven't just leveraged my portfolio management skills. I've leveraged nearly 3 decades of building a reputation of being a man of my word, of being a person of high character, morals, integrity, someone who, if you give them an assignment, you can expect they're going to do their very best at trying to accomplish it. And if things fall short, has the willingness to be accountable, to make sure that we're being transparent and there's clarity in communicating even when things don't go well. That means a lot to people. It's not always getting it right, but how do you respond when things go wrong? And so for entrepreneurs, when they're looking to build a business, when they say your name, what do they think about it and what do they think about you? That becomes incredibly important.
Randall, we had a lot of things to discuss, but we have a time limit. But before leaving, any message for those aspiring entrepreneurs who are struggling, they are fighting their battle alone? You want to share your experience with them, you want to give any message to them.
Yeah. I'll say, this is, and it'll sound trite, but I think it's important. People will say sometimes to be successful, you need to think out of the box. I'm like, I don't think out of the box. I just think. And it's incredibly important for you to recognize the environment that you're operating in. Try to be as dispassionate regarding the context as you can so that you can be proactive in making decisions that are sound for yourself and sound for your business. For people who sometimes have promise but fail, they tend to be reactive. And if you're constantly reacting to the stimulus around you, you're probably not going to be well equipped to take advantage of what's happening around you. And smart people are able to kind of pivot and shift as they need to. For example, in starting this business, the conversation we're having right now has come about because of connections via social media, business media, like LinkedIn. I was not coming into Caruso a social media person. I did not have really a profile or anything out. I didn't want it. Didn't feel like I needed it. But one of my partners said, Randy, you're going to get on LinkedIn. I said, I don't really do social media. I'm not sure about it. She said, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, you're going to get on LinkedIn. And now on LinkedIn, I have like about 1,700 or so connections with a variety of people. And some of it is leading to engagement and interactions to continue to build my reputation, get my name out there to help build our business. And so this is where you need to recognize that moves in one direction, and that's forward. And so you need to be relevant to the current generation with what's happening right now, or you run the risk of being left behind.
So Randall Cain has shared some hacks with you guys, and I think you will going to like the podcast. So if you are not trying to change yourself, your personality, I think you cannot grow. If you want to grow, you have to take the first step. So keep sharing, keep daring, keep achieving. We will be going to meet you in the next podcast. Till then, take care. Bye bye.